and welcome to another brand new episode of the Jedi Way here on the Outlaw Nation channel. I am the Outlaw John Rocha, sometimes known as Rocha Fett, joined today by the great Laura Kelly, co-host of Force Toast Pod, and someone who's very much looking forward to having these conversations today on Star Wars. Laura, how are you? How are things? How are you doing?
I'm doing great. This is like we're gearing up for like the biggest June I think that we've ever had in terms of TV. I mean, not just like the Acolyte, but the fact that like House of the Dragon comes back, the Bear comes back. Like I feel like I'm just inundated with excitement about TV. So I'm pumped, and I just enjoyed talking about the Wicked trailer with you too, because that just came out today when we're filming, and I'm just
It's true.
What a time to be alive, you know?
There's so much happening. You're so right, and of course, what also is happening is that fantastic green screen behind you. That's an incredible shot there. Look how good that looks, y'all, coming into us live there from a galaxy far, far away. But yeah, so much is happening there in June. You're right, 100%. I think there's going to be smoke coming off of the Outlaw Nation by the time that month is over. So much discussed, but we've been revving towards it, and now it feels like we're finally on our way. We're only a couple of weeks away from it happening. So very excited to take a look at that and have conversations with all that stuff that's dropping as well. And one of those things that is dropping that we're going to be discussing here on the show today is the Acolyte. We're going to go back in and talk about some of the stuff that happened, the most recent trailer, some of the behind the scenes videos have been released, and some of those spots that have been released to give us a little more in-depth knowledge of the characters and what we might be seeing in this show from Leslie Headland. We're also going to jump in to have conversations about that story, about Sigourney Weaver joining the Mandalorian and Grogue, and we're going to spoiler review Tales of the Empire, something Laura and I were both looking forward to very, very much, and we're going to have some fun breaking that one down as well. And unfortunately, Kevin Smets can't join us today. He is working hard at his job, and it's premiere day, so he couldn't join us for this particular episode, but he will be back for our next episode to have conversations with us and have some fun. So Laura, let's jump in without any further ado into the first story, and let's talk about Sigourney Weaver. What an interesting decision. Sigourney Weaver here. We're hearing this from the Insider, from the Hollywood Reporter, from Variety, from a number of places here, that she is in talks to join the cast of Mandalorian and Grogu, the movie that is supposedly coming up very soon here. Possibly, I guess, ahead of the Rey film for right now is what they're saying. But of course, anything can happen in the world of Disney and Star Wars, as we've seen. But Sigourney Weaver is such an interesting choice. Certainly, you know, we've seen her in the Alien franchise. You could argue she's been in the Star Trek franchise with being in a Galaxy Quest, but someone who's certainly kind of established herself even more so in this later time of her career as someone everyone is excited to see pop up in anything that she's in. So what's your thoughts when you heard this news, and what's your speculation on what we might be seeing from Sigourney Weaver in The Mandalorian and Grogu?
Well, first of all, I'm so glad that you brought up Galaxy Quest, because I feel like lots of the articles that I've read have mentioned Avatar and Alien and the sci-fi roles that she's played, but I'm like, excuse me, you all are missing, I feel like, the most important one, which is Galaxy Quest, which is just a fantastic movie I love. But honestly, we've seen a lot of interesting people show up in the Mandalorian television series. I mean, we had Christopher Lloyd, Jack Black, and Lizzo all in one episode. So I'm not particularly surprised to hear that an actress like Sigourney Weaver, which feels random, but there it is, that she would show up. I would anticipate, I don't know if it's just because she has probably played roles like this before, but she's got such like a commanding presence. I feel like something in like either the not rebellion, I guess at this point it's the New Republic, or like an Imperial remnant, but like maybe some higher up officer involved in that. That's kind of what I would anticipate, but who knows? I mean, who could have ever predicted that like Jack Black and Lizzo would be paired up in an episode of The Mandalorian randomly? So I think I look forward to just being surprised. But I mean, what have you heard? What do you think? What are you anticipating? And are you excited about this?
Well, yeah, I'm excited because she's such a great actress. And as you said, she is science fiction royalty. And so to have her be a part of the Star Wars franchise, I think is exciting. What role she might play is so there's so much to speculate, because she's so good at so many different types of roles. She's so talented in playing so many different type of roles. We could see her as like a fellow bounty hunter. We could see her, as you said, as a member of like the New Republic government, maybe as one of the senators involved in all of this. We could see her as one of maybe a a challenger to Grief Karga. Maybe she wants to lead a new faction of bounty hunters and take over that city. There's all kinds of things that she can play. Maybe she's just like one of these people who is piloting the ship like Harrison Dula, has her own ship, and she's involved in some way with Mandalorian, with Mando and Grogu. I could even see her being oh god, what is Amy Sedaris' character? I could see her being her mom.
Oh yeah.
Right? That could be her mom who's running the original thing because of the curly hair. You could totally make the connection that it's her mom and that she runs the original shop in the family, and her daughter is the one who kind of was inspired to do it herself but wanted to do it away from her mother. So there's all kinds of possibilities because she could play humor and comedy just as well as Amy Sedaris. So I would not be surprised to see her pop up. But overall, I think this is great because she brings a foundational gravitas to stuff that she's in. And I know right now with films and everything with Star Wars, everyone's like, well, you know, there's certain sections waiting for it to fail, other sections hoping it doesn't fail, other people cheering it on. She brings someone that is beloved by all three of those sections of fans. And so I think this is a smart move by Lucasfilm and Disney to bring her in to be like a stabilizing force in this movie as well.
Right. I mean, I don't think that it needed like a legitimacy or anything to it, but I see what you're saying. Like it kind of adds a little something to it. It does bring a sort of foundation to this movie that, that still kind of feels like it came out of nowhere, to be totally honest. Like I remember when this announcement came, I'm just like, how many movies are in the works? It's just a lot. But it's starting, I think, with an announcement like it's not even an official announcement, but speculation like this and announcements that she's at least in talks, like it makes it feel a lot more real. It feels like it's closer. And it just makes it starts, we're building the excitement a little bit early for this. But I mean, whether she was in it or not, I was always going to be excited about this. I love The Mandalorian and Grogu. I also loved season 3, unlike I feel like a lot of people. So there wasn't anything that was ever going to deter me from this. But I think, it sounds like she's going to be a great addition. If she ends up joining, maybe at the end of the day, maybe it falls apart. It was all just talks to begin with.
In talks, right, exactly. Well, and we'll see. And I think it's a smart move, but we'll see if it ends up happening. You're absolutely right. But do you think that because she's in talks, such a big name, do you think this now solidifies it even more that this is the film that's going to come out ahead of the Rey film? I know they've said that this is slated and dated to come out before the Rey film, but I've also seen other people speculating that that's kind of more fluid than people want to admit, the possibility that the Rey film could come out ahead of the Mandalorian and Grogu film. But do you think having talks with Sigourney makes it feel like maybe it's a little bit closer to happening, the Mandalorian and Grogu film coming out first?
Kind of. I don't know if it necessarily contributes to me thinking it will happen first. I'm starting to wonder if maybe those two movies might come out like, maybe it's going to be like a solo situation where it almost comes out in like the same year, like the same like 6-month period or something. I kind of don't want that. I'm like, we've gone so long without a Star Wars movie that I would prefer they actually, let's pace ourselves a little bit. But I also wouldn't, I don't know. I'm like, it seems crazy that we already know so much about, I guess we don't know a ton, but it feels like we know a lot about the Rey film. I feel like we've been getting little tidbits here and there, and we kind of don't know that much about the Mandalorian Grogu. Like we know that there was a season 4 written, and whether this is what they took and adapted it into a movie just to put something in theaters, or if this is in addition to what they had already written for season 4, I don't know, but it seems like this would have been, I guess maybe this probably is farther along in the development process, I would assume, but it's hard to say. I do hope that either way, I hope that they pace them out a little bit. I don't know. We've gone like 7 years without a Star Wars movie or something in theaters. What do you think?
I think, it's weird. It feels like on the TV side, they seem to be a bit more confident, and results aside, with however you feel about Ahsoka or Kenobi or Mandalorian season 3 or what have you, or Tales of the Empire, which we're going to get to in a little bit. I feel like the TV side, they've got a lot more confidence, a lot more willingness to risk failure, and taking the chance. And certainly with ACOLYTE coming soon, it's another bit of evidence for that. But on the movie side, I feel like they've become so precious now because it's been so long that they're afraid they're going to come out with a movie that's not going to do well. Like it feels like they're treating it like porcelain, and it might shatter at any moment because there's been so much anger and hatred and toxicity towards Star Wars because of how that sequel trilogy was received. And I'm talking about across the board. I'm not talking about specifically from one section of the fandom. It was across the board. You know, some people really hated Rise of Skywalker. Some people hated Last Jedi, loved Last Jedi, all of that. And even Force Awakens now is getting some retroactive hate, which I think is weird for me to see because I love that movie.
Right.
But you're seeing it all happening. So you're just like, well, are they overthinking it? Are they worried about it? Is the Mandalorian and Grogu, is that the safe bet? Is this why they're going this route? Because safe doesn't always mean great. And it could feel like, oh, it's just a glorified episode that was fun, but they didn't really take a chance. And so I think we're not going to know until maybe the Rey film comes out, if it comes out. For some of the people have been suggesting it might not. I don't think we're going to know if they've got a confident step forward moving into the theatrical space again with this current regime at Star Wars. So I'm curious, but it's going to be a bit, you know, and so it's going to be a lot of moving parts in all of this before it finally lands. And I just wonder what place the Star Wars fandom and universe will be in when these films finally land. So for me, it's just I'm real curious to see from a sociological point of view where we're going to be as fans when these films finally land in our theaters.
Yeah, I think I'm most curious to see how they end up actually turning out in terms of quality, just because
yeah.
I think you are right to question, is this a safe bet? I think it would have been, I think going with the Mando movie would have been a safer bet if they had done it after season 1
Yeah,
or
true.
even
Good
season
point.
2.
Yep.
I think after season 3, where there is a little bit more divisiveness in the reception of it, I think it's a little bit more of a risk. But I think that I feel like I've also heard a lot about how Disney is making all of these cutbacks, not just to Marvel, but also to Star Wars in terms of budgets. And we know that Star Wars has sucked up a lot of Disney's budgets making these television series that in turn are not generating a ton of revenue, at least not in the way that would be comparable to a theatrically released film. So I think maybe at one point they thought that would have been the safe bet. I wonder now if they're sort of questioning that.
Yeah.
But time will tell. I think there's still enough love for The Mandalorian and for Grogu to pull off a successful film, even if it's like not the best Star Wars movie we've ever seen, which I'm not anticipating that it's going to be. I'm anticipating it'll be a good one. I don't think it'll be the best one.
Right.
But I think hopefully we all land on our feet, Disney included.
Listen, you make an excellent point, because in February of this year, they reported variety number of places reported how Disney Plus had lost 1.3 million subscribers. So because of the price hike. So you talk about losing revenue, losing the possibility of revenue, losing viewers on your content. This is how it happens, you know? And so you start to wonder, as great or as good or as okay as some of the TV shows have been, they've been something that Disney has been able, and Lucasfilm have been able to hang their hats on in expanding the universe of Star Wars. And now if it's expanding to less people because less people are subscribed to this service, that can be a detrimental thing down the road for Star Wars overall. I think we're always going to have, obviously, Star Wars fans and a large contingent of Star Wars fans, and be very vocal and wanting it to be great. But I wonder, as they take all this time, as you said, 7 years, they take all this time, there's a bit of concern that creeps in, I think, if you're a Star Wars fan, about how these movies are going to turn out. And as you said, the budget cuts, are they going to affect what we get in terms of the look of the overall product? Because not everything can be Godzilla Plus One. Not everything can be the creator. It all depends on timing. It all depends on who you're using and all of that to make it look a certain way. So I just wonder in the end what the end result's going to be. And don't discount this. And I'm just kind of throwing it in because it's popping up in my head. Don't discount them riding through the AI wave of criticism. They may look at AI as a way of saving money and putting that in motion and having elements of that be a part of their Star Wars films. Because remember, they used it for the opening of Secret Invasion, took a lot of crap for that, but at least that was the opening salvo. So I just have a feeling that may be another way they go to save money in this situation and deal with the fallout or the bad press around it from some of the fans.
Yeah, that's only going to get more backlash, I think.
Oh, yeah.
That's not the move at all. I mean, I'm thinking
I
like the
agree.
Star
I
Wars
agree.
Celebration poster, like the key art
Right.
from Star Wars Celebration, like all these people asking who's the artist, and
Yeah.
they're not answering the question. So there's a lot of speculation that that key art was AI generated.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
I've seen the backlash from that. So I mean, imagine how much worse it would be if
Yeah.
then it's in a theatrically released film. Like I can't,
Yeah.
yeah. Hopefully they're smarter than that, but I don't know.
We
Wouldn't
will
be
see. I mean,
surprised.
money, you can be smart all you want, but once the money gets tight, all of a sudden you have to make these moves for
Yeah.
sure. Let's switch subjects. I want to ask you, we didn't put this on the rundown, but I want to ask you this because this popped in my head as we were talking and I forgot to put it on the rundown. But Laura, there's Oreos coming from Star Wars, Oreos cookie packs, which are set to drop online on May 30th at oreo.com/Star Wars. The brand promised for the first time ever the contents of each pack will be a surprise, with consumers not knowing the full details of what's inside until they open it. Look at this design and package. It's pretty good. Open to discover your destiny, dark side or light side. In each pack will reveal cookies that feature either all dark side or all light side character embossments and include red or blue cream infused with Kyber sugar crystals inspired by the crystals found in a lightsaber. So you look at these. I mean, I saw Brian Ward put a tweet out that was very funny about what he's going to do with certain ones that come up in his packs. But is this seem like a step forward for Star Wars to do this with Oreos? Does this kind of excite you to maybe try Oreos and get them for the Star Wars designs here?
I mean, I would definitely pass this in the grocery store and want it. And thank God there are people in my life who are like, no, you cannot, you don't get to get that. Okay. Like, and which is
Yeah.
honestly fair enough. And yeah, I saw Brian Ward's tweet about having a Dexter Jetster cookie, which just absolutely killed me. Wonderful. But
That
yeah,
was good.
I love Oreos. I'm all about it, but I don't,
Mm.
yeah, there's no way that I'm going to be allowed to buy these unless I happen to wander off to a grocery store unaccompanied by anyone else. So that's where I land on it. I don't know. Are you going to is
I
somebody going
mean,
to stop you from this, John?
I feel like I have to try this. Maybe even do a video where I do an unboxing, so to speak, unboxing or unwrapping of these and take a look at the designs and see which one. Maybe buy a couple of packs, so maybe I'll get a light side and a dark side, hopefully. But look, all the big names are in here. I mean, Chewie, Luke, Leia, Darth Vader, Boba Fett, Darth Maul, Mace Windu, Rey, a stormtrooper, a random stormtrooper, General Grievous, Dooku, Jabba, a scout trooper, R2. So like everybody's in here. So you can collect, I guess, if you want to collect. It's another way of collecting there in the world of Star Wars. But even Darth Sidious has one. So I guess anything is possible with these Oreos. I just thought it was a cute little story. It'd be fun to see what we get from that. All right, well, let's move on to some other stuff here. Let's talk about the Acolyte. Laura, we got a new trailer for the Acolyte, which teased a Sith Lord at the end, possibly, whatever that is there, as he says there. Who are you, or what are you? And we saw more with Daphne Keene in those. We also got some TV spots, or these 30-second spots that showed us more with Carrie Ann Moss and her character in her fights there with Amanda Stenberg. And we also got some behind-the-scenes videos of Lee Jong-jae and his training and his work there, getting ready to play this character, and also his love for Star Wars and how humbled and honored he is to be a part of the franchise. So what are your overall thoughts with all the Acolyte stuff we've been getting? What'd you think of the new trailer and all these subsequent videos that have come out to try to get us excited for this, which is just days away?
I freaked out at the trailer. That like I shouldn't have been surprised when that came out. That was like first thing on
Yeah.
Saturday morning, right? Like on
Yeah.
our May the 4th. And I was in my living room watching TV and I was like, we need to pause what we're doing. And I'm going to screen share and I'm going to watch this and I need to not hear anything while this is happening. And then I proceeded to go in my room and watch it like 6 times by myself
Wow.
because I just loved it. So
Yeah.
I have not been shy about my excitement for this show.
Yeah.
Very excited about the idea just of the High Republic showing up on screen. Anytime we see those gold robes, it just warms my heart.
Yeah.
So I'm very, very excited about this. I when it comes to Carrie Ann Moss's character, I should have like realized this, but they handed out posters for the Acolyte at C2E2 when I was
Oh,
there, and the poster is just that it's very minimalist. It's like
yeah.
gray and it's got a lightsaber hilt at the bottom and then just the red streak of blood that goes up
Oh,
the
yeah.
center of it. And that's that's Carrie-Anne Moss's character's lightsaber, I think, which
Okay.
I'm like, oh, I'm excited for her to be in this, and I bet she's not going to be in it that much. To be
Yes.
totally, like, I bet she's not going to last very long, which is like so sad because she does seem like a really cool character and seems very competent with that lightsaber and that battle against Amanda Stenberg's character. But yeah, this is it. I mean, I was excited already. It's only hyped it up even more. There's been a lot of press coming out for this show leading up to the trailer. We've seen lots of interviews with some of the big trades with some of the actors. So I'm glad that they're kind of building up excitement. I feel like they waited a little bit long to kind of get going with it, but this really seems to be the sort of pattern with Disney and marketing is we go this very long time without anything, and then like 3 to 4 weeks before it comes out, they just start inundating.
Right.
And I kind of chalk that up to like maybe like people's attention spans, like maybe that's why they're doing it. They don't want to start too early.
Right.
I don't know. It's fascinating to think about, honestly, with these marketing strategies that they go with, but that's the gist of it, is that I'm just so freaking excited. Whether the character is a Sith Lord or just some dark side user at the end, the mask with the teeth is like so stupid but also awesome. And so I think I'm just excited to be overwhelmed by this show.
Yeah.
Which I'm just anticipating that's happening. I don't know. What did you think when this trailer dropped? We also got the list of directors. I don't know if we had that information before, but that press release came out or Saturday morning as well. All of our directors, I think there are 4 different ones that are working on this show. But what stood out to you from this trailer and some of the press we've been getting?
First of all, the 30-second spot with Carrie-Anne Moss and seeing more of her battle with Amanda Stenberg, I thought that was awesome. And that was much needed because I've been frustrated in all my trailer reactions that we're not getting more of Carrie-Anne Moss, but I've been enjoying it. I like the trailers. I think people are unfairly coming after this thing because they just want to come after this thing. I have a feeling there's more darkness to this than people might think, and I sense from what we saw from the trailers that something darker is coming within this thing that I'm excited to see from everybody involved, and leading the way, Leslie Headland, of course. And so this trailer reaffirmed that for me even more powerfully as I was watching it. Like there is this sense of dread. Whereas the first trailer was more about, let's introduce you to the world. This trailer had much more of a darkness to it, much more of a leaning towards the Sith. So when we get to that moment at the end, that's basically what this trailer has been leading to. Kieran's character says peace is a lie, which is one of the Sith tropes. And so that's kind of a connective tissue there as well. And you see that everyone is unsettled by what's happening. They're killing the Jedi. What's this all about? Lena Jay's character wants to save Amanda Stenberg, wants to save her because he trained her. What's his connection? And I agree with you. We're seeing more of him in the trailer. So it feels like Carrie-Anne Moss isn't going to be a big part of the show in current time of the show. Like she might be there in flashbacks, and then maybe in the initial beginnings of the show, she's the Jedi that gets killed that kind of sparks this whole investigation. And so they want to find out what's going on, but like I think there'll be maybe flashbacks of her, but not anywhere near where she seems a contemporary part of this. So I'm interested and concerned to see how they're going to make that all work. But there was much more darkness in this trailer, which got me excited. Yeah, and that's it, Lord shot. I'll say a lot of people connecting it here to Aboleth and to the Mortis stuff, and so is that going to be something they open up? Because that had been teased earlier. The Mortis stuff had been addressed recently. So is that going to be something they're going to open the door to as well, coming out of Ahsoka and other things? Is that going to happen too? So there's a lot more of the mysticism and that kind of stuff that's being explored here in Star Wars recently, more of the magic stuff. And so I want, because under Filoni, he loves that stuff. So I wonder if maybe Filoni had a little bit of influence on what Leslie was writing about, where they were going with this, and if this character, and if Aboleth is a part of this, rather, and if the Sith character is somehow symbolic of that. So all of that coming out, I was really jazzed about, and then seeing the behind the scenes with the training they were going through gets me excited as well. So yeah, overall, I don't know. I know I might be in the minority, and certainly I've seen videos of people making fun of me for enjoying this, but whatever. I like it, and I'm in, and I want to see what they got. And if it's good, then I'll enjoy it. And if it's not good, I'll call it out, as I've done numerous times in a bunch of the TV series that have come out before. When it's not good, I call it out. When it is good, I call it out. But this one I'm excited about because I sense this has a darkness to it that I don't think people are giving it credit for just yet. And am I off base on that, Laura, or do you sense this is another one of those kind of middle of the road approaches here that we've seen from some in some of the recent projects here at Disney, at Star Wars?
No, I don't think you're off base. I think that you bring up a couple of points. First of all, there seems to be a lot of flashbacks in this trailer, which is kind
Yes.
of fun.
Yeah.
I feel like we're seeing a lot of these characters de-age to various levels, so that's going to be fun.
Yeah.
The sort of dark vibe of it is really, because it's the High Republic, and we're sort of starting to see the downfall of that in this age. So
Right.
I'm excited for that, but I'm also dreading it because I love the High Republic. And I don't want it to end.
Yeah.
I was talking to somebody who I don't remember who it was, made a comment that it reminded them of Andor in the sense that
Mm.
you don't necessarily need to be inundated in the Star Wars fandom and lore in order
Yeah.
to enjoy this. It looks like something that anybody could come in with any amount of knowledge of Star
Mm.
Wars, be it a lot or a little, and be able to enjoy it, which I think is an interesting observation, and I hope that that's true.
Yeah.
Obviously, Andor was very much beloved. The sort of backlash that this series has already been getting, despite the fact that it's not even out
Yeah.
yet, is really fascinating. I think a lot of it, not a lot of it, but at
Right.
least some of it came out when Leslie Headland was talking about how there were people in the writer's room who were not Star Wars fans.
Right.
And for some reason, that set off a portion of the fandom,
Yeah.
which is bizarre because, again, we know that Tony Gilroy is not like steeped in Star Wars lore,
Yeah.
like
Yeah.
doesn't care, just wants to make like a good story. And look what he did with Andor and how it was received and how much people liked it.
Yeah.
So I don't know why people wouldn't hear that and think, oh, well, it was a good thing for Andor. Maybe it'll be a good thing here too. I'm
Yeah.
also very much looking forward to a Star Wars show that actually has a writer's room. This is something that I
Mm.
think The Mandalorian desperately needs. I think Ahsoka desperately needs it. I think that both of those shows could definitely benefit from it. So I'll be very curious to see how the sort of writing credits play out in this show. And if we get any sort of, I don't know, if we get any sort of sense that
Right.
there were multiple people working on. I mean, I can't imagine that's going to be the case. I imagine this is going to be one cohesive story,
Yeah.
and everybody that's working on it is we've now seen some of the behind the scenes and read so much of these articles that have come out recently. The Lee Jung Jae, the behind the scenes thing that he did is so fascinating, and it was like this at Star Wars Celebration too, where he got up on stage and he like doesn't speak English very well, and yet
Mhm.
he's in this trailer delivering these lines in
Yeah.
perfect English. Delivery is right on point. You would never know. Like that just takes immense talent, I
Mhm.
think, and so much guts.
Yeah.
So I have so much respect for him, and I think that behind the scenes thing was essentially Leslie Headland being like, I saw him in Squid Game and I thought he was great and I wanted to put him in my Star Wars, and he was like fully on board. Like
Yeah.
that's the
Yeah.
gist of it, and I love that for
Yeah.
them.
Yeah. And we're going to see the battle between him and May. Clearly, you see them choreographing it. So it's probably I imagine the whole show is going to lead to this battle between him and her at some point. And we see in the trailer, like, this is the thing that I also lean towards enjoying in terms of the darkness. I mean, we see these Jedi being turned, right? We see their eyes going dark and going black. So that last shot where all the Jedi light their lightsabers, I know in the teaser trailer it looked like, oh, they were all standing up against something. But they cut to Lee Jung Jae's soul there, whipping out his lightsaber, and it could be that they've turned these Jedi into essentially servants of the Sith in some way, fighting against Soul, like mind control. And if it's Aboleth, I mean, is May a mortal character? May could be what ends up becoming Aboleth by the end of the show, if that's the direction they're going in. So that to me gets me interested and excited too to see how much of that is a part of this Star Wars. I sometimes wonder if people who see stuff in an animated format and are into the mysticism and magic and converting people and manipulating people, like when they see it live action, it affects their senses to see it in live action. I just wonder sometimes if that's the case with people reacting so negatively towards this Acolyte trailer. Because I mean, I went on the comment section for this Acolyte trailer. It is just all kinds of sarcastic, toxic, vile, mean comments, trying to be funny, trying to be cool like everybody else. And it doesn't, I don't know, it just feels like we've already made up our minds about it, and that's not really the way we should be approaching art, is it? We should be looking at it, seeing it with an open mind, and deciding for ourselves if we like it or not. So I don't know. I just have concerns about how it's going to be received. And if this is a low-rated series because of that feeling, then I don't know what the reaction is going to be afterwards, Question.
Right, and I feel like they're already planning on a season 2. I think that that's already sort of, I don't know if it's been like announced officially or if it's already in motion by any means, but I think that I feel like I remember reading that at some point that is the plan eventually, that there would be multiple seasons of this show. I like to think, perhaps naively, that is a very loud minority of fans that are going in and making all these comments and just review bombing and things like that. Maybe that's naive, but again, I feel like most of my timeline, which again on my Twitter in particular is extremely curated, to be people that I know aren't pieces of shit. Like, I'm seeing mostly excitement. I have not seen anybody, unless I see the stupid random stuff of people I don't follow showing up in my timeline. And like, that's the only time I see it. Like, people that I follow and that I trust and that are, whether they're mutuals or not, are people who are excited about it. And so I appreciate that. Again, it makes me think that the people who are being really loud and shitty about it are it's just a small group of very loud, obnoxious people.
Yeah. And a lot of those people were, going after X-Men 97, and you haven't heard a peep from them since the show came out. And so maybe the same thing might happen here, that it delivers a very powerful show that overcomes all of that and drowns out those voices that are just desperate to hate it. And I don't mean that's everybody. Some people have legitimate concerns and criticisms, and I totally understand that. But I just mean people who've already made up their minds and are invested in it not doing well. Maybe those people will be drowned out, as those people have been drowned out on the X-Men 97 type of side of things, when they were all screaming, "Oh, they go woke, they've gone woke, they've gone woke," and then everybody loves that X-Men 97 season. So who knows? We will see. Best thing you can do is deliver great content and then let the chips fall where they may. And we'll see when Acolyte drops on June 4th, the 2 episodes that are just around the corner, Laura. That's crazy. I know. Ugh. Send me those screeners. Anyway, all right. Let's take a break, Laura, and let's jump into our review of Tales of the Empire on the other side of this break right after this. All right, so we are back. Tales of the Empire, Laura. I got to get your thoughts on this. 6 episodes here, 3 dealing with Morgan Elsbeth, 3 dealing with Barriss Offee. They smartly started with Morgan Elsbeth because Star Wars is about hope. You don't want to end on the darkness. And the first 3 really compelling backstory of how Morgan came to be part of the thing that destroyed her family and destroyed her mother by the end because of her inability to let go of her anger and her hatred of what happened to her. She is warped and manipulated and willingly, and ends up serving Thrawn, ends up being a part of this, and ends up enslaving her town there in essence. And it's really depressing by the end where Morgan goes, and tragic. And then with Barriss is quite the reverse. We start where we left off in the Clone Wars. Lynn, who of course we saw in the Kenobi series as one of the Inquisitors there. They train her, and it's almost like a prison moment where her and a fellow young Jedi, they're fighting over that lightsaber to stay alive. And then she's recruited into the Inquisitors, but her crisis of conscience comes to the forefront in in the second episode, and we see her break away from Lynn, which is awesome up there on that hill, on the mountain rather. And then that third episode with the maze and where she's at, and she's in a different place. She's much more spiritual. She even looks back on the Jedi with love and understanding of what that council was trying to do. And in the end, possibly dies. We don't know. But such an interesting series of shorts here for Tales of the Empire. What did you think overall of this, and specifically with the Morgan Elsbeth storyline and the Barriss Offee episodes?
Well, they can put them in whatever order they want. I started with the Barris stuff because that's what I was most excited about. So
That's awesome.
I jumped ahead, as I'm prone to do in books too. Whoopsies. I think that was the right move for me because honestly, like the Morgan stuff is fine. It's interesting enough. And I said it before it came out, and I'm gonna say it again. I just don't think Morgan Elsbeth is interesting enough of a character to sort of
Okay.
hold even her own on
Okay.
these three episodes. I think they did a great job with what they had. I'm
Mhm.
not sure about the story decision to take the invention of the TIE Defender from
Yeah.
Thrawn and give it to Morgan. That's a bizarre choice, but you
Right.
got to tie her in somehow and tie her to Thrawn somehow, I guess. I mean, I feel like we were asking that question a lot probably during Ahsoka is like,
Yeah.
what is the connection here? Like, how did she find him or he find her? And
Right. Right.
if you got to answer that question, then that's fine.
Yeah.
But the story that people have been wanting since The Wrong Jedi aired in the Clone Wars and getting that follow up with Barriss Offee, and then they end it the way they do, where they leave it on the question
Oh,
unanswered. I'm like,
yeah.
oh, God damn it. But still, absolutely incredible. I loved it. I loved that. I think that there were a lot of real world implications that came, like questions really that sort of came out of the first episode, The Path of Fear with Morgan.
Mm.
Watching
Yeah.
the separatists destroy her village on Dathomir
Yeah.
and just mowing down all of these Night Sisters. And by the end of that first episode, the Mountain Witch coming down and obliterating all of the droids.
Yeah.
Like she had that power to do that the entire time. And she just watched the Night Sisters get mowed down from the sidelines. Like it brings up the question of like what happens when
Yeah.
you know somebody who has the power to do something to stop a genocide doesn't step in. Like, look what happens.
Fair
And
point.
I think it's a really interesting point in time for Star Wars to be putting that story out there. One that I really, as much as I preferred the Barriss stuff over the
Yeah.
Morgan stuff, that first episode I thought was a really, really good one.
Yeah.
Also, the fact that they had Diana Lee Inosanto voicing her character's mother, I thought was really cool. They
Yeah.
brought in the young actress that plays Lily in and Just Like That to voice the young Morgan. I
Yeah.
thought she did a phenomenal job. One of the things I complained about to Alice about the Morgan episodes, and we talked about it on Force Toast,
Yeah.
was how bizarre and annoying it is that Morgan jumps back and forth in episodes 2 and 3 with like this weird British accent. I'm like, pick one. Like it was just, I mean, you don't hear it in The Path
Yeah.
of Fear, and then
Yeah.
you do hear it like off and on in these 2 episodes. And I mean, Alice rightly pointed out, Carrie Fisher did it. Like there were just,
Yeah.
there is a history there to it. So maybe whether it was on purpose or not, I don't know, but it did feel kind of bizarre. And I did end up preferring the Barriss episodes over it. But I mean, what were your thoughts on the Morgan Elsbeth stuff? Do you think it worked in the context of Ahsoka and what we knew? Do you think we needed this story? I mean, that's always the question of like, who asked for this? It doesn't matter who asked for it, but
Yeah.
I mean, did you ask for it? Is my question.
Well, no, of course I didn't ask for it because I haven't been the biggest fan of Morgan Elsbeth as a character. And nothing against Diana Lee. I think Diana Lee's a sweetheart of a person. I don't 100% think her acting is on point enough to make me really connect to this character. She does a good job. Certainly loved her in that Mandalorian episode with her and Ahsoka. That was an awesome battle, but that's what she does best. The fighting sequences are where you really see Diana Lee come to life. I just don't know necessarily that she on camera can act this character with the amount of depth that it deserves. I thought she did a much better job voiceover wise in playing in the roles that in the parts that she got to do it here in Tales of the Empire. But I'll say this, I did like it. I really enjoyed it. And the animation was gorgeous. My God, some of those scenes, those shots. I mean, when she sets fire to the woods, so that's why we know the woods are kind of darkened and what have you when we see it the first time in the Mandalorian. That all of that just connecting the tissue to the stuff that we'd seen already, why she does it, but the shot of her with the flames behind her was awesome. And I also felt those moments like when the older man who goes in there to try to maybe defend the young girl who used to be part of their village, and when she comes back as a member of the New Republic there and trying to essentially bully Morgan out of the situation, I felt for that guy. I know that guy. I as I've grown up with people like that who've unfortunately had to be pushed around, but just to stay alive, just to survive, just to be able to pay their bills, just to work in situations, of being son of immigrants, seeing how that can sometimes be a situation when you have a boss or an overlord who wants to essentially just work you to the bone and pay you pennies on the dollar, which is what she essentially was running, a sweat shop. That's what essentially Morgan was doing with that entire town as they were building these things for her own benefit, her own connection. And that just shows, and I like that the story showed you that is the path. You talk about genocide, but also let's talk about people who have been giving into their fear and hatred and anger and frustration in life, and they are turning towards the dark side. They think they're walking the right path, the light path, trying to get everybody to be aware of this stuff, but they're actually walking the dark path towards this kind of thing where my self-aggrandizement is more important than these other people. And because they're not as strong as I am, they're not as smart or skilled as I am, they deserve to be under me. And that's essentially what Morgan did, because she tricks her way into that town to be in charge of that town, Corvo there, and then tricks the people with the promise of being connected to the Empire and all these riches. None of it comes true. They can't fight back. She kills that young girl that comes to try and stop her from the New Republic, and just essentially reaffirms her dominion over those people. So there was such a darkness and a sad, tragic darkness that I enjoyed from those episodes as I was watching. The Barra stuff, though, is gorgeous. Just beautiful.
Oh, yeah.
Just a beautiful story. And the performances here were really great. The changes. Now, you could argue. I saw some people's criticisms, and I think it's fair. Like, why would the Inquisitors take her on if she wasn't fully 100% committed to the situation? I totally get that. Maybe they should have done a better job of showing why they felt she was the right choice, why they didn't have issues with her maybe being just a recent Jedi. Maybe they felt the way that she took care of that that other Jedi who was just young as she is to solidify her place. Maybe they felt that was enough of an initiation, but certainly there could have been more. Maybe more with the training scenes and seeing more of the darkness grow within her that they bring out. I think would have been nice to see as a more of a character arc, because then you see when she turns on Lynn, it actually has much more weight to it, because we've seen her be manipulated into bringing out her fear and anger and hatred, because they need that to be on the surface for her to be able to be manipulated to do the things they need her to do there as an Inquisitor. So I would have liked a little bit more of that, but that overall story arc was so great, especially when you see where she's at the end, because that's what you strive for in life, is to be a better person. Yes, when you're younger, you've got your emotions, you got your feelings, you get distracted, you get confused, right? In a moment there, what she was doing was essentially trying to highlight the hypocrisy that was going on and bring attention to it. And in her own messed up way, it was misguided freedom fighter stuff, right? So now she gets twisted and manipulated to be part of this, but inside of her, she's still inherently good. So that's why she questions things. And when Lynn goes too far, she confronts Lynn and tosses her off that mountain and what have you. So that when we see her again, she's done like the meditating and the self work, and she's in a much better place, almost Yoda-like in her approach to things, so that when you go into the maze, or she sends Lynn into the maze, and what happens afterwards, like her getting stabbed by Lynn is almost like what she almost expected to happen. And it's her way of atoning for things and sacrificing herself to bring Lynn back to the light. And if that is her final act, that really reaffirms the goodness of who Barriss was. And so I thought it was a great redemption arc for Barriss in those last 3 episodes. That was just a joy to watch. I rewatched them like 3 times, those episodes, because they were so enjoyable and didn't take too much time. And I just liked the performances overall.
Yeah, the rewatchability factor with this series is so on point. I mean, yeah, the fact that they're just these little quickie episodes is great, but just the content itself that we get in this tiny amount of time, they do such a good job. In terms of whether or not Barriss had enough of a sort of downfall, whether or not the Inquisitors should have questioned more.
Yeah.
I think the storytellers are sort of banking on the fact that the viewer has seen the Clone Wars and has seen Barriss's downfall. I mean, she bombed the Jedi Temple. Like that's pretty convincing argument in her favor. But the fact that that she battles the Grand Inquisitor himself in that first episode, in episode 4, Devoted, I think speaks a lot to, first of all, that duel is absolutely brutal. I mean, she gets like looks like she gets her spine snapped in half. She
Yeah.
ends up with a bloody nose by the end of it. I mean, it's a really, really brutal duel.
Yeah.
And the fact that they tie it back around in the last episode where she's sort of now in the role the Inquisitor was in, where she's not even using a saber to duel Lynn.
Yeah.
She's just dodging. She's just using the forces and keeping both of her hands behind her back the same way the Inquisitor did. I thought that that was so wonderfully done. I think the choice to bring Jason Isaacs back
Yes.
to voice the character who is way younger than he was in Rebels, and Jason Isaacs sounds so much older. That's a bold choice, but it's it's fine. I guess it works. I feel like fans probably would have been like, "Oh, you brought Rupert Friend in to voice?" Like, would it have made more sense? Probably, yeah. But fans would have been like, "No, Jason Isaacs." So they probably did the right thing.
Yeah.
But I really enjoyed these episodes. I think it really made me. I came out of it like really wanting more Lynn content.
Yeah.
I mean, like, I'm so intrigued. I now I want to go back and watch Kenobi. I'm like, she's probably barely in it, and I still want to go back and watch and just be like, ooh, like, what can I spot now, knowing what I know?
Right.
But I would love a story there, and I think she shows up in Rise of the Red Blade, the Delilah Dawson novel that came out not too long ago. That was also phenomenal.
Yeah.
I mean, if people are like, oh, I wish that there had been more of Barriss as an Inquisitor, and see, like, read Rise of the Red Blade by Delilah Dawson. I promise, like, Iskat Akaris is such an interesting, compelling character in that sort of same sense. And it's just a really, really well done story. Great book. But yeah, the Barriss episodes, I definitely favored those more. And I really liked how her story played out. I thought it worked really well. And I think it makes a compelling argument for more Lynn content if we can get that at some point.
Yeah. Did you like that they brought back Thrawn and had the connection with Morgan? I know you said that you understood why they made the TIE Defender thing and made it way strong, but did you like them bringing back oh my God, I can't remember.
Lars Mikkelsen.
Lars Mikkelsen.
Yeah.
Sorry, Lars. It's not Mads. It's not Mads. Yes, Lars Mikkelsen to voice Thrawn back and deliver that back and forth with her and with him and Morgan.
Yeah, I think that worked really well. I think bringing Captain Pellaeon into the story as well also worked really, really well. The Rook fight was really, really well choreographed. That was a very cool fight to see. I mean, even just like the sound design of hearing the Beskar spear bouncing off of different surfaces in those episodes, I thought was just fantastic. So yeah, I'm always excited to see and hear Lars Mikkelsen in anything. I just did a rewatch of the BBC series Sherlock, so I've been getting a decent amount of Lars Mikkelsen content. So it was nice to see him pop up here too. But yeah, I mean, what were your thoughts on bringing Rook back into the story and seeing Lars too?
Yeah, I thought that was great, to be honest with you. I thought it worked so well and helped us to mentally establish the connections and then add more to the overall tableau of the Star Wars stuff we've been seeing recently. So you add yet another section here to fill in, like a puzzle almost. Well, okay, now I've got that side of the board, or now I've got more for that side of the board that I can add to the overall picture of it. So yeah, I really enjoyed that. And I'll never say no to Thrawn. So I thought that was great to see. And you could tell, like, this is what I enjoyed at the end of the day, though, from both of these is these are both people who were abandoned or had their tribe murdered or did something to have them be excommunicated from their tribe. One took it and went down the dark path of hatred and anger and fear because they needed to feel the power. They wanted revenge, but they ended up becoming the thing they beheld, right? And what Costner says in Untouchables, I've become what I've beheld and I am content that I've done so. And that can be a dangerous path. Whereas one, the Barriss, goes astray for a while, but then realizes I'm going to do the work to find my way back. So we always have a choice. And I think that's what's inherently powerful about Star Wars. They show us very similar backstories for a lot of these characters, both the dark side and the light side. And it's always the choice you make. And even if you make the wrong choice, it doesn't mean you can't find your way back if you do the work to find your way back. And I love that as a powerful message coming out of it. You can take the easy route to hatred, pain, anger, and fear, or you can work harder to overcome all of that within yourself and find a place of peace and become even more powerful than you ever were before. As you said, her with the hands behind her back, moving all around, not afraid anymore when she was getting destroyed by the Grand Inquisitor years ago in the story. So I love that as kind of a lesson when you're coming out of these 6 short films here for Tales of the Empire.
Right. Choices. Yeah, that's a great theme that stretches throughout these 6 episodes in particular. And the fact that we get this sort of second chance, I think, theme as
Mhm.
well. And then
Mhm.
that gets passed on to Lynn at the end, that she gets the
Yes.
second chance at
Yes.
life is just
Right.
fantastic. I have a question for you
Oh, okay.
because in this episode 6, The Way Out, we have
Yes.
this couple with the baby that are going to find Barris, and they tell her that a traveler told them to find Barris. And
Yeah.
then at the end, we have Barris sending them to an old friend. Any theories on either of these?
I mean, we're in the time of New Hope, right? Is that
That's a
the
good
time?
question.
I feel like that's the time
Unclear.
of a New Hope. So, and she's not involved in it, so she's off on her own thing. So, is it Kenobi? Uh, is it Leia? I don't know. Yeah, I had the same thought. Like, who could it be? That's the old friend. And I thought we'd have a hint or an allusion to it, but I didn't quite land firmly on any real concrete person. What about you? What's your speculation on this?
The Traveler, I don't know.
Okay.
Ahsoka, I think, is the old friend,
Oh,
and I
yes,
think
Ahsoka.
that mostly because that we have so
Right.
much unaccounted time
Yes.
for Ahsoka. Like, what the hell was she doing
Right.
during the Galactic Civil, like, in that time, in that period of time after we see her on the planet, whatever it is, wherever she
Yeah.
has that
Yeah.
sort of final battle with Vader, to when she pops up in Ahsoka? There's a massive in between story that we still don't have.
Right.
And I would love to see something like that play out at some
Yeah.
point. So maybe we'll get that story. Maybe that's still to come.
Yeah.
That I think is probably the most obvious answer. The Traveler one is a good question. I'd like to think
Yeah.
that that's like another Jedi. It could be like a Lor Santeca situation where it's like
Oh,
an ally to the Jedi,
okay.
but not necessarily someone who's a Force user. But
Right.
I would love to know more. I'm sure,
Yeah.
they just throw those little terms out there like, I don't know, it was a traveler. That's who told them. Like, and it's fine. But naturally, as Star Wars fans, we're like, ooh, but say more.
Um, yeah, I guess that's possible. Am I, and one last, am I wrong? Like, I don't think I've seen the Mountain Clan. Like, what is the Mount? Was that connected with Dathomir? Am I just forgetting the Mountain Clan being connected at Dathomir there, um, or is there something more connected with that?
That was a pull from Legends, as I understand it.
Oh,
So
okay,
that
okay,
was like a Legends
okay,
novel, I think, that
okay.
that came from. I don't think it's actually appeared in canon anywhere else. I could be wrong though. Off the top of
Mhm.
my head, that's what I feel like I remember reading that at one point, but yeah, maybe Wikipedia has a better answer or a more
Okay.
updated answer.
Do you think? And one last thing, do you think Barris is gone, or do you think she survives?
No, I think she survives.
Ooh, okay.
Yeah.
All right.
I'm all about it. I think that she gives Lynn that second chance, and I think Lynn, that's her
Mm,
act, is that she pulls her out of there and she
yeah.
lives. And because that imagery at the end of that episode looks very similar to Ahsoka walking into the cave
Oh yeah.
in Twilight of the Apprentice, we have a sort of opposite imagery of Lynn carrying Barris out. And
Oh,
so I
great
think
points.
I think she lives.
Oh,
I don't
that's
know. That's
great.
just me.
No, Laura, I learned to trust you and your insights on these things. So I think you're absolutely right on that one. That's great. All right, well, there you go. That's our spoiler review for Tales of the Empire. Maybe we've inspired you all to go back and rewatch them and listen to our commentary on it as you're watching them and picking out certain things. We'd appreciate hearing what you all have to think about everything we talked about. Tales of the Empire, the Oreo cookies, of course, the Acolyte stuff, and of course our opening stuff with Sigourney Weaver. What's your speculation on who Sigourney could be in The Mandalorian and Grogu? Let us know all of that down in the comments section below. Laura, another fun show with you. Please let people know where they can find you and go and hear more of your takes on Star Wars stuff.
Sure, you can find me on Twitter and Instagram at shutup_Laura. I feel like I've stuck to my word this time. I've been trying to be like more active on Twitter, and I
You
feel like
are.
I've done that. So come interact with me there. That's mostly where you can find me. My show that I host with my friend Alice is Forced Toast, a Star Wars happy hour. She and I also just recently talked about Tales of the Empire and caught up on a lot of the recent Acolyte press.
Mm.
our next episode, which I believe is out like the day after Memorial Day, I think, we're supposed to be talking about like all High Republic catch up. So we're going to catch up on phase 3 comic run.
Okay.
I think it's like 4 issues we have to catch up on. And then we're going to talk about the young adult novel Defy the Storm. Because a lot of that, I think, is helpful to know if you're going to read The High Republic, Temptation of the Force. So that is all I can say about that book right now, but that comes out, I think, June 11th. And the, what is it? Like the gag order on all of us lifts on May 28th. So I can actually like talk a little bit about
embargo.
It. Yes, the embargo. That's it. That's the proper word for it.
Someone's been watching a trial this week. All right, well, there you go. As for me, you can find me at The Rocha Says on Twitter, Instagram, and TikTok, The Outlaw Nation on Twitch. Please remember to subscribe to the channel, y'all. Marching towards those 50,000 subscribers. Hit that subscribe button, hit that bell button, so as we're dropping all kinds of content we do here on the Outlaw Nation channel, not just the Jedi Way, but also the Geek Buddies, the Hot Mic, My Trailer reactions, all the stuff we do here on the and reviews, all the stuff we do here on the Outlaw Nation channel. We'd appreciate it. All right, take care of yourselves. Be well. And Laura, what do we have to tell them?
Always remember, your focus determines your reality.